Back when I was a teenager in the 1980s, the nearest thing that I ever got to browsing the internet was picking up these store catalogues whenever I went into town, and then once I got home I'd look through them very carefully, picking out the things that I'd buy if I had enough money. Now, one thing every teenage boy wanted in the 1980s was a big old portable stereo or a boombox. In your mind, it's the thing that you thought would transform you from being whack to being fresh. If you had a gigantic one with loads of buttons and dials on it, then you were surely going to be the coolest kid around. And two of the machines that would sit pretty near the top of any teenager's shopping list would be the JVC M90, as favoured by LL Cool J and the Beastie Boys, or the Sharp GF777. Now, if you want to pick either of those two machines up nowadays in good condition, make sure you've got quite a lot of room on your credit card, because they command very high prices. However, it wasn't that much different back in the day. Your pocket money or part-time job or whatever wouldn't cover the cost of one of these decent stereos.
My name is Cool J, I devastate the show, but I couldn't survive without a radio. My radio, believe me, I like it loud. I'm the man with the box that can rock the crowd. Walking down the street to the hardcore beat while my JVC vibrates the concrete. I'm sorry if you can't understand, but I need a radio inside my hand. Don't mean to offend other citizens, but I kick my volume way past 10. My story is rough, my neighborhood is tough, but I still sport gold and I'm out to crush. My name is Cool J, I devastate the show, but I couldn't survive without a radio.
Hi boys and girls. Okay, today we're going to be creating a mini boom box to set your cell phone in if you have one, or just a cute little box to store things in. You should have a reference paper on your table to share that has some examples of boom boxes to look at, so you can decide what kind of accessories you want to put on them. You should also have a boombox template. You're going to need to cut out these pieces to make the box shape. So if you want, you can just cut around them and lay them on your clay. Or you can just kind of guess if you want. But I'm going to go ahead and start by cutting these out. One way to save yourself a little time is just to cut one. And just remember, you need 3 of those. I need 3 of exactly the same thing. And then I'm just going to cut one of these and make sure that I have 2 of those. So that's a way to save time. You could also probably share this with a partner at your table if you want, because there's plenty there. Alright, so I know I need 3 of these. I'm just going to write myself a note here. 3 of those, 2 of those. Alright, now to get the clay ready, Mrs. Locker will probably hand you a slab of clay, but if you don't have a slab of clay, or you ran out the first time and you need to roll some, you're just going to take your clay. If it's in pieces like this, go ahead and wedge it by squeezing it really hard together, or sometimes you can like throw it at an angle at your mat, like so. Get some of the bubbles out, okay, if there are any in there. And then you're going to roll it, and I might have some sticks that you can put on either side to keep yourself from getting too thin. On one of my tools I have them and one I don't, but you don't necessarily need them. What you need to do is just to be sure that you don't get it super thin. You don't want it too thick and you don't want it too thin. So I'm going to continue to roll this until I feel like it's about the right thickness. I don't want it as thick as my fingers. That would be kind of thick. So maybe the thickness, I would say, of a cookie if I had to describe it. Okay, and I'm just trying to make this big enough to fit 3 of these, so I'm going to keep rolling just a little bit. I want to at least get my rectangles in. And if you take your clay and every so often pull it off or you will have it really stuck to your mat. So do like roll it and then flip it over. See, mine's wanting to stick. Flip it over and then roll it again. That way you won't end up with a very difficult piece to get off of your mat. Okay, so I'm ready to cut these out. You should have some tools. You can use whichever one you think works best. Okay, so now I have all of my pieces that I'm going to need. I'm ready to start assembling the basic structure. And this extra clay is going to just go in a bag. Well, no, actually not. Put this extra clay under a damp paper towel, and by damp I mean you wet it and squeeze out all the water, or most of the water, and then just set it up, put a little tent of a damp paper towel over it so that it doesn't get dry while you're working on the assembly. These you don't need to keep, you can throw those away. And for the assembly, it doesn't matter which one you start with, but you're going to have one that's your base. Each of these is going to be front and back, like so. And this is going to be here, this is going to be here, okay? So, you don't want to just stick them together like this, even though they look like they would hold. This looks like it would hold pretty good. It won't. When the moisture dries out, these will just fall apart. So, in order to protect ourselves from that happening, I'm going to use a toothbrush and some water, and we want this water to kind of wet, so I'm going to scrub the edge of this. I want it to rough it up a little bit right there, and then I'm going to set this edge. So you can decide, do you want to put this up against or do you want to set it on? I'm going to actually set it on mine. So I'm going to put my rough edge here on the bottom. And I'm just going to set it right on top. And then you want to kind of wiggle it a little bit. You want to feel it attaching, almost like Velcro. So if you shimmy it back and forth a little bit, you should feel it attaching. And then you can kind of smooth that edge. Then I'm going to do the same thing. This one I'm going to put right on top of there. So I need to get this roughed up right here, making sure it's got a good, I don't want it to be too smooth. You want it to be kind of rough, because it'll attach better. And then rough up that edge, put them together, and then, like I said, sort of shimmy it till you feel it kind of grip on. It should feel like it's tightly attached, and you can kind of smooth this out later, but for now, just get it well attached, okay? Then for this one, this is going to have 3 edges, the bottom edge and the 2 sides that are going to be right up against there. So I'm going to rough up these outside edges here, and I'm going to do like the letter U. I'm going to go along this side, the bottom side, and this side, and then that goes right up against. And we want to do that same thing where you kind of like feel that it's attaching. Smooth out your corners. I want to make sure mine isn't getting too stuck to the, yeah, there. Don't forget to check every once in a while. Make sure you're not solidly stuck to your mat, okay? You want to lift it up every once in a while just to make sure you can get it up. I have had somebody that did theirs and then they couldn't get it off the mat, so check that every so often. All right, now I'm ready to go to this side. And it's the same thing. I want to rough up this outside edge of the bottom and the 2 sides. Get them nice and rough. And then I'm going to do almost like the letter U here. I'm going to go in the front of this, on the front of this, and this, because I know this is just going to set right against there. I'm going to place it on there, kind of wiggle everything a little bit to make sure that it's really sticking smooth. Where they come together, you're going to smooth that out so it looks like it's one piece. Okay, I've got a really nice box going here. Now, this is where you're going to start adding details, okay? So I want to have a handle right here. I want to put some speaker circles there. That part is entirely up to you how you want this to look, okay? This is where you start to personalize it and make it your own. Okay, and when you're completely done, you're going to have, there will be a piece of paper that has your name on it, and you're just going to set your boombox right on that paper so we know who that belongs to. When it dries a little bit, when it's about leather hard, Mrs. Walker will write your name on the bottom, and that way we'll know whose is whose.